What up, y'all? My name is Professor Lyrical. I'm rocking the green Celts hat. It's probably a bad day with the green screen behind me, but I'm a bit of an OG. Today, as you might see the date right over there, uh, that's 1987. It's 2025. It's August 29th. It's a long way from then, right? Now, there's a little mistake with that date, but that's the first record I ever did. It came out actually in 1989, but that's when the instrumental was recorded by DJ Cole Medina. So we're a bit of vets right there. That vinyl, I don't even have a copy. I suppose I could get one if I was to go over there and buy some, right? That's what the market is selling for. This is Discogs. This dude, whoever has that. He wants 53. He's got 10. I got to get them off him because I don't even have one on my wall feet. I think you got one. But today's a big day. So let me tell you why. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of this over here. And I'm going to click XCAL right there. There's some more stuff that we have in our repertoire. There's some more records. Somebody wants 123. I got to get on my game of selling them. I do sell the records. We still do overseas. We sell a lot of records. We've got a lot of classics. This is one of them. It's called Brand Name Woman. But the reason I'm really here is because today's the 20th anniversary of this. Well, that's the single off of the album. And this album right here, I know it's a glare. That's the iNFiNiTi album right there. So a lot of y'all know about that one. That one really was my first solo material of anything substantive. It was definitely my first solo album. And let me walk you through this here. So when you click Excalibur, you click the members, you see Lyrical's in there. There's me, there's some of my other stuff. There's iNFiNiTi, and you see today, August 29th. So that's the album. This was the single for The Focus Is Back. There was a little bit of promo for it. You might remember those. Got the MIC stamp of approval on there too. That was back in 2005. Available at Massive Records. Shout out to them. And it talks about the record release party. And these were selling out. These were selling like literal hotcakes for me everywhere. My label mate at the time with this label, for those who don't know, was none other than Cool G Rap, also on Blaze the World, which was the label to put this out. Now, this was at a time where having stuff on the internet was a big deal. So I had this on iTunes, and that was really the big part of the deal. We're putting this back out because it's very hard to find right now. Let me tell you why. It doesn't really exist in the ether too much. You can get it through Amazon. I think you can get it through Apple Music if you really know what you're doing. But once in a while, you can't find it. And the reason it's blocked is because the owner, Jonah Fialkov, is on America's Most Wanted. So the whole thing has kind of been taking it down. But with my label, shout out to my peoples. Shout out to my man, St. Crawford, Family and Friends Entertainment, who distributes my stuff through Sony Orchard. And Freedom Corner, the brand, is the label that is distributed through them that puts me out there. So shout out to my guy, Freedom Corner, LD, and the whole fam, Pro Quo, my man Fly, Legendary, the whole fam. Speaking of fam, my man Fee's been with me since the start. We did these XCAL records. Let me take you through a little bit of history. We're from Lowell, Mass. I was born in Lowell. I first heard hip hop roller skating next to my house at a place called the Hi-Hat. They were playing, back in the day, it was disco. There was Sugar Hill Gang when that came out. That was a roller skating classic. Michael Jackson, all of that, Run DMC. A little later as all the stuff started playing. And then eventually that place went out of business. I had moved anyways, and Tingsboro, Skate 3, up in the Tingsboro line was the place that roller skating continued. Played a little bit more rock in there as we went through the late 80s and so forth. And, a little hip hop mix and so forth. I'd moved to Chelmsford, which is one town over from Lowell. And I met my man Fee there, who lived on the North Chelmsford line, going to school in Chelmsford Public School. So we met, really started working together as like freshmen in high school. We started doing our thing, playing music. And I had been rapping the whole time, like making little silly songs. Shout out to my man Warren Curry in Chelmsford, making these instrumental songs over 88.9, but not 88.9 at night. We would listen to the reggae show, and we would try to make songs with a guitar and drums and literally pots and pans, missing strings. I had a guitar, it wasn't good. Brought it to Fee's house anyways after that. And, when I'd be missing a string or whatever, I'd put the guitar down, essentially playing bass or guitar. And his brother played drums, and he played drums, and his other brother, Mark, played keyboard, and they had this, like, musical house family set up. So I would just put it down, and I'd be like, I can rap a little. And so he'd be like, word, let's hear you. When there's drums, that's all you can do. And I started rapping, and people were like, yeah, you got some skills, right? So I started really getting serious right then, right in the beginning of high school. And we took it to a whole different length. We started a group called Cruise Control. We went down to, shout out to Joey B, Marcus B. Hottie, but my man George Alley, who was DJ Kamikaze G back then. Shout out to my man DJ Styles later on, DJ Zulu, all that. But we would go down to the local radio station to try to get heard. We would hear on our station a little closer to home, 91.5. It was WJUL then, WMUL now, before UMass Lowell became UMass Lowell, and it was just U Lowell. We decided, man, we're going to this school when we get to college, and we did. And Fee and I did, and they had Rap Against Drug contests with my man Diamond Don Saunders, and he was doing some crazy stuff back then, including some shows that never really happened. He kind of like went on the lam for a while. There's a lot of that going on, and he became a big promoter, and not so much a promoter, a radio uh, guy, I think, out in the Chicago market, and he really changed his life around. Became sort of a program coordinator and so forth like that. So long story short, we started recording with DJ Cole Medina, who did the mega mixes there. He took us down to Newberry Sound. We recorded our first album, our first single, which was that Twist on This record, which was legendary because it was the first vinyl, out in Lowell, Mass. Shout out to my man Donnie Maker, who really put us on in Lowell. And, we looked a little different than your average rappers at that time. So did Donnie, but the rest of his crew was a little bit more traditional. Shout out to Jerry J, Cool Will, Steve Nice, everybody. They were just the traditional MC crew. A black MC with Steve. You had a white MC with Donnie, who could scratch his behind off and was a graffiti legend and a freestyle extraordinaire. He actually did the graffiti on this shirt. Shout out to my man Mass. And to take it full circle, we just stayed friends, became cool, became crews, and we just, grew together, did scores of shows, and grew together when his studio went up to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We started recording with him, and he did the scratches for our classic Butter Messenger, which I just showed you a second ago, a Brand Name Woman. We recorded those with him. Then we started recording with Bob Nash and Lowell. Fee and I would make songs, some of which came out as hidden tracks on this album that never came out, about 98, 99, when we stopped recording really as XCAL together. We were living in Mass Mills, and just crazy, life circumstances being what they were as we were relatively young. And I moved to Cambridge and started working with my man Dread, the Manaflow, who was a great freestyler, and I knew from around the way. I met him in New York City when I was in the Battle for World's Primacy in 1993. All this to say, my group with XCAL was responsible for me getting into the battle, doing the solo thing. Fee came, supported me. Shout out to my man Torch, my man Doomy, Clark Kent, the same battle that Mad Skills was in, the same battle that Supernatural was in, where freestyling as an art really began in battles. So it's a crazy history. I went on to win scores of MC battles all over the place when people didn't catch wind yet that freestyling was now the new norm. Certainly had my share of upsets and losses, and that's how it is in MCing. And went on to just become really possessed with the writing and freestyling as well. Did my first album, which was this iNFiNiTi album that came out in 2005. Won for 2006 for Album of the Year in the Mass Industry Committee, which I helped to promote. So those award shows, a lot of people don't know this. It was originally an award show that I was going to do in 2004 at the Mideast. I was promoting most of the shows in Boston through Invasion Entertainment. Shout out to my crew, Invasion. We put out records like Why, also Green, never great with the green screen, and my man Presence in there. And we made Salt, and we made just a lot of records and a lot of good shows and times, and they really helped me to launch my career as a solo artist. But we started doing shows together as Invasion with Derek's cousin. I lived with his family on Fairmont Street. The house is still there at this moment to this day, and that really was our launching pad and where we launched everything from. That's where Invasion Entertainment got started. And for about 5 or 6 years, I was promoting the bulk of the shows that went on actually in Boston. As most people know, I was taking on a crazy pace. But what most people don't know is I was teaching at Lowell High School in 2000, but moved to Cambridge by that time. I was already in Cambridge living full-time, but driving back up to teach at Lowell High School, the alternative program that I helped build. But also was teaching as an adjunct professor at Middlesex across the street. Shout out to Lynn Ferreira, who recommended me to teach there. Our kids weren't taking classes. They're mostly gang affiliated with a lot of issues on the street. We started them at 10 o'clock to get them off the street. It left an 8 o'clock opening. A lot of faculty didn't want to teach then. I, of course, said, yeah. I got my first taste of teaching in like 2000 as an adjunct professor, right? In 2000, calling myself a professor with only a bachelor's degree in that time in business, but simultaneously doing all this hip-hop, driving back and forth from Cambridge to Lowell, freestyling nonstop, recording nonstop. Fee and I had already done a bulk of records and massive amounts of things. Shout out to Syntax, shout out to Detention in Lowell at the time, and shout out to MIA, shout out to Crumb Snatcher, shout out to Pace and Low, and just the whole environment of Lowell at that time really, helped establish our career. Took that to Cambridge, ran with it there, started promoting shows. Detention was promoting shows a lot up in Lowell, sometimes in Boston, Bill's Bar. Governor Pete was doing his shows, and outside of that, that was about it. With any consistency, some of those Metro concept shows and stuff like that were big and at the Western Front, and I lived literally between the Western Front in the Middle East. And I was doing the teaching, going back and forth, driving, go to Lowell, come back, started taking classes towards my master's one at a time while Lowell High School was paying for it. People don't know this history. And the effort that I had to do to try to make all this work, trying to hold down a full-time, responsible, professional job as a teacher of mathematics in my home city, while also trying to go for my master's one class at a time because that's all they paid for and that's all that I could really afford at that time. So I started the journey of recording and doing my first solo album because it was really tough for Invasion to start doing all the shows I was doing. You know, D was doing the barbershop. At the time, he was at New Image before he opened his own spot and before he moved out to Waltham and started cutting over there. And it was just untenable. Like I'd have a show on a Saturday in a different state, and like D can't come on a Saturday. And my man Presence, he was working at the hospital. He had a really good job as well. And you can't leave shows to make like $100 when you're gonna miss your work. You can do it once in a while, but it's untenable. And that's the problem with local hip hop for a lot of local artists. It's hard to maintain. Even though we had unbelievable air presence from when I was in XCAL 97 to 98, Butter Messenger continued on the legacy of groups like Concrete Click that were on the radio, man, Manny, Love Love, so many groups, Schizophrenics, and later on you'd be, you know, Esoteric, God Complex, Mr. Lift, Acrobatic. Shout out to my man Papa D, who made the trips with us down to New York City to record with my man Ski since the 90s while Jay-Z was doing his project, Camp Low was doing his project, and that was the sound that we had. It was that Rock-a-Block, Rockefeller kind of sound that people didn't really know what it was when we came out in 97 and 98 and invaded the airwaves with Butter Messenger, Brand Name Woman, those kind of songs, Les Mis, Don't Make It Hard. And the hidden songs that were on my album, One Life and Renaissance, which this album is re-releasing. Today is the day of the 20th anniversary, so it's just a big day for me just to shout out and think about some of these tracks in retrospect. You have Intro to Infinity, Actual Fact, The Focus is Back, Consider It Art, Lowell, Presidents, which was a remake of the one I originally did with Ski over the Dead Presidents beat, which a version of that he flipped and we recorded on. And it was a song called Lyrics, which had the same general setup. And Ski would make so many beats for a lot of us, and we would get the formula down, waiting to record all day, and he'd be like, "Oh, sorry, I gave this beat to like Jay or somebody else or a version of it." And then, you know, we weren't able to use a lot of those tracks. And quite honestly, they weren't as good enough to snuff. But we started really rehearsing and getting better with our stuff, and the process of all that not only put us on the map as XCAL for what people saw as the newer version of that, which was me, Fee, and Ruby, and Syntax doing the production, learning directly from Ski when we took him down there to figure out the blueprint. He gave us all kinds of advice then about how to mix, how to make the sounds pop, how to put the bass on the drum hits and all these things, and to record with Savvy, right? And all of that stuff translated directly into my album as well, the Infinity album, which was all produced by Nelly Pro Tools at a time where Scratchism started getting on the map. I would be in there doing this entire project. Nelly went to the New England Institute of Arts, where I later would teach as an adjunct as well. We would be breaking in late at night just to use the graphics on the computers and to, you know, use some of their programs. And he would also be doing the engineering for the album, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. And then Aldo, by the way, we met Aldo and Nelly at a radio show at the Trade Center that he and I were doing, promoting Butter Messenger a few years back in like 98. And that's how we met them. We knew they were doing their pirate radio. We started recording with them at their studio. I started doing my solo work there, which was an extension of XCAL and Invasion work. I started bringing in people that I was working with at local clubs like the Red Lion in Cambridge. I met Noosh, shout out to NV. She's now a doctor out in California. She does a lot of what I do, speaking, performance. So the history and the legacy of the people you meet, it just goes on and on and on. You touch so many people, and so many people touch your lives in so many ways. And this is sort of a celebration for me of the Infinity album with so many great people that worked on that. You had Aldo doing the photography. You had them doing the scratches on a lot of the tracks. We had, shout out to my man Jared, who passed away from Shorefire, who did the original version of No Doubt, which also was on this album. We remixed a version of that, kept the instrumental the same, so his DNA is in there, and just redid a couple of the verses that I wanted to do over to match sort of the sound of this album. And my man DJ Shame was the person who took that song and made that into a whole idea for a new album later. So with Shame, I made No Doubt as the lead single that we started playing on ERS in like 2007, which was just an extension from this album. So No Doubt's not on this album, but Consider It Art very much like it and sounded like it was sort of a blueprint for No Doubt later. Shout out to my man Slane, who always told me, "Yo, bro, put out Consider It Art." He told me on a phone call at my house when I was in Cambridge. He's like, "Bro, I know you're going to do, you know, This Focus is Back." And shout out to my man Rip Shop, who's also on that. Rags to Riches, produced by Detention, has all of Invasion on there. Come With Me as NV on there singing, you know, Rip Shop, Lyrically Ripping. It's really like a multi-single. And he was like, "Yo, bro, I know those are all dope, you know, but do that, Consider It Art." And I had already had this thing all underway. I was like, "Bro, I really can't get that out there." But I respect what you're saying. And to this day, I remember that and always know that I want to put attention on considerate art. So you may see that when we drop the full album coming up through Family and Friends, through Freedom Corner brand, indirectly through Dotted I, which is still my imprint that we started, the Dotted I, shouting all the way back to the dotted I on the forehead of the Invasion logo right there. I know it's kind of hard to see with that dot on the I for the Invasion logo. That's what Dotted I Music and Entertainment. And I had Dying Girls doing the promotion and stuff like that. So there's a lot, man. There's a lot to cover in a little bit of time. Even this cover that we did, which had multiple versions of me, kind of like showing the, I know that's tough to see, the rapper version of me and the professor version of me over here with the spray can, the notebook. There's a spray can. Just even getting the shadows right at that time with trying to make it look realistic with doing the graphics. So that's what we had to do to make that stuff work at that time. And really proud of the work. Really big shout out to everybody involved. My man D.I.Z is on the album. My man Knight is on the album. My man Session is on the album. I mean, you just go through on and on. Kaz1, who was the DJ for us with Invasion and a producer. Nelly Pro, obviously, on some of the production. Even Ski is in there hiding in the first instrumentals there on the skits when we're doing these in the background. You got Ski's song that he did for us, XCAL, which a lot of people don't know is called Head Bobbers. My man, of course, would know. Of course, Papa D, who took those trips with us to New York where we had to wait with Jay-Z recording, and we'd be sitting there all day waiting for them to get up and record in Camp Low, and he'd make those trips with us. Came back inspired to do his label. Shout out to him and Truth Elemental. Backpack Records to Brick Records to that time was special in Boston, and it was the foundation for us as XCAL, which laid the DNA for my album, which was iNFiNiTi, which, as you see there in the date, August 29, 2005. I want to make sure I shout out everybody who's on the album here. Decap has went on to be an award-winning producer, I believe a platinum producer, or maybe a Grammy in there too. I have to double check that, but shout out to him. He's done amazing things with his Beats That Knock series. Knight at Koki Man, Bob Nash, of course, when we started recording in his studio. You got Session, as I mentioned. Of course, you got Fee in there. You got Nelly, you got Nida, you got Rip Shop, you got Kaz1, DJ Everready, a little bit on there, and Lyrically Ripping. Day and Night's got Decap and Envy singing again, Koki Man again on the second track. We got L&P, we got Rue Russ, we got Sickman, of course, we got Presence, we got Nelly Pro Tools. This song here is really apocalyptic, not apocalyptic, very predictive of the future. There's us going to do Switzerland shows. Shout out to Switzerland. Recently, I just came back with my man Torch, who lives in Switzerland, went out to see him, did shows in Germany with him, who I met in 1993. So we were sort of predicting our future here, that we'd be out doing shows in front of massive crowds, which check out my Instagram. Did some of those with Torch, which is great. Shout out to Germany and all the hip-hop fans overseas. There's just so many people involved in this, and I can't wait to put it back out so that you can hear it on all platforms now, not just the one or two, because of that whole fiasco with Jonah Fial Koff. August 29th, 2005 to 2025, 20 years, and that's for iNFiNiTi. It's all lowercase i's with the dot on the I. That's extended into whenever I do Pro Quo, and you see IB Hood, it's a lowercase I, the lowercase I on dotted I, the lowercase I on the logo of the Lyrical logo there, which again, I know it's hard to see. I'll put a picture of the album up right there. You know, you can see the logo. It's on the dime. It's everywhere, man. That's what represents me. The only squad out there being to put an Eigen team. See, I love Luda, but I gotta be clear. I don't eat chicken and I don't drink beer. Yeah, I don't smoke nothing. I don't toke nothing. Thanksgiving Day, you will find me eating rolls and stuffing. So rugged that I run through the snow to practice for shows. Breath control, master my flow. So after you go home and you sleep in your bed, I'm working on a rhyme. I'll repeat in my head.
I love your lipstick tip with your hand on the stick shift. Mischief, whip you through the red light district. This chick get it when she gets off work. Working hard, you deserve a little thickness and dirt. I know many flirt with you in your mini skirt. Use a dime, double nickel nines, make these pennies work.